We're told that time is like a river. It's linear. You can never step in the same place twice. Or can you? According to some people I've talked to, they've had brush-ins with the lost and forgotten past happening before their eyes as though it is today. But let's go back to the year 1972, when a young Jimmy Church was only 8 years old. He saw something rather strange in the sky, didn't you, Jimmy?
Johnny, this goes back to Waukegan, Illinois, which is a city just north of Chicago. And I was 8 years old. I was in the fourth grade, and my family lived in an apartment that faced our elementary school, which was across the street, not down the block or anything like that. You walked out of the front door of our apartment building and you were looking directly at my elementary school. It's called Clearview Elementary, and which sat up on this hill, but surrounding the elementary school was this massive, and especially when you're 8 years old, it's really big, but this massive open field that had a playground, sandboxes and swings and all of that, and some asphalt areas, but was all grass mostly. And a couple of baseball diamonds off in the distance, like a soccer, football field area too as well. But it just went on forever. It's just this massive open area. And that's where we played, obviously, right? So it was such a big area in the middle of our neighborhood that there were probably on any given day during the summer, hundreds of kids out there playing. And that's what I would do, get up, walk out of the apartment, cross the street into Wonderland, right? Just go and play with my friends. And that's what I was doing. And I crossed the street, and at that moment, something caught my eye up in the sky above my head. And I just look up, and right above me, very close, big, is what appears to be the Hindenburg. It's a rigid Zeppelin with the ribs and engines, and I could see the windows of the gondola in the front. And I could hear it. I'm looking, I'm like, wow. And it's going this way, which would have been from north to south, like heading towards Chicago. And I'm just looking at it, and I've got this big open field in front of me, and it's going. So I follow it, and I'm running underneath it, and I'm looking at it, and I'm studying it. At that age of 8, all of us kids, boys, were into rockets and the Apollo program and airplanes and jets and astronauts, and I would draw a lot. And one of the things that I would draw, I remember drawing back then, was like the Hindenburg, because it was easy, and me and my friend John, we would just draw these pictures. And so I knew what I was looking at, right? I'm like, wow. So I just study it, and I look at the engines, and I chase it across this field, and which probably took 5 minutes. It wasn't going very fast, and it was low, and it was silver and majestic and beautiful. And I just took it all in. It was so much fun. And I ran all the way across this field to the other side. I don't know, it's probably a half a mile, and I chase it until it just continues on and goes away, and I can't see it anymore. It's like, wow, that was pretty cool. And I might have gone and drawn a couple of pictures of it, but it was a pretty cool thing. And I might have even mentioned it to my friend John, but I go and I start playing with my friends, and whatever, it's another summer day when you're 8 years old, and life moves on. Now, fast forward to about 6 months ago, and I'm sitting here. This is my studio. This is the bunker. And I'm sitting in here doing some research and thinking about things. And for some reason, that memory popped in my head about what I had seen. And I jumped on the internet, and I was sitting here. I just kind of just recall the whole thing, and it such a vivid memory, and it was so much fun. And I thought to myself, I'm going to check out to see if I can find out what aircraft that was, right? United States Navy. I know that we had, the famous Los Angeles. I think it was here for the Olympics in Los Angeles back in the 30s, and there was pictures about it. So I knew about that, and I remembered the Akron, Indianapolis being, or Los Angeles being a city, Akron being a city in Ohio. So I thought, okay, I'm going to jump on the net and see if I can find which Zeppelin that was in Chicago in 1972. That would be easy, right? Go up and look at the history of things, and I could find out what it was and what it was doing in Chicago in 1972. So I jump on the net and I'm searching Zeppelins, and I remember looking up the Los Angeles, and I find it in Wikipedia, and I find some references. And as I'm studying this research, I find out, and I was stunned, by the way, that there were no Zeppelins in 1972. Not only were there no Zeppelins in 1972 over Chicago, there were no rigid airships anywhere in the world on the planet since 1939. Now, I said, wait. This can't be right. Right? This can't be right. And I go and I find out that the United States Navy had three. It was the Akron and the Los Angeles, and there was another one named after another city in Ohio, like the Cincinnati or something. All three airships, rigid Zeppelin airships that were owned by the Navy, were either crashed or destroyed. The Los Angeles specifically sat in a hangar up until 1939 when it was dismantled. The other two had crashed and were gone. After the Hindenburg disaster in New Jersey, the Zeppelin company all but folded. No countries in the world. That was it as far as the Zeppelin program goes. And I didn't know any of these facts. It makes a lot of sense now when you go and you study it. Yes, after the Hindenburg disaster, nobody wanted to touch it. Hydrogen was out. The United States had helium. Germany didn't have helium. We weren't going to give Germany any helium. So that was the end of that story. And Zeppelin production all but stopped. And interest in rigid airships just stopped. Nobody wanted to mess with it because it was so dangerous. The United States and the Navy, because of safety issues, two of theirs crashed. They grounded the Los Angeles and ended up dismantling it. And that was it. There was nothing anywhere in the world. Now, I'm sitting here reading this, and I have to step back and think about, what was it that I saw? How is it possible? Now, it wasn't the Goodyear blimp. That would say Goodyear on the side, and it's not a rigid airship with the ridges and the look of and the design of a Zeppelin. A blimp is something else altogether. I didn't even go and look at the Goodyear blimp, or if the Goodyear blimp was in Chicago in 1972, or even if it was in existence. That wasn't my interest, because I know what I saw. What I saw was a Zeppelin. It's two different things, right? And so as I sat here and thought about this, did I step into some type of time warp? did I step through a vortex of some kind? I don't know that, that transported me back in time. I'm not so sure if that would be the case, but I thought about that first because I saw all the kids playing. I probably saw friends of mine. I didn't feel the school was there, right? So it wasn't that I was taken to another time. Was I instead witnessing uh, something from the past that was being projected now? Right? Is that the possibility of something from the past being here? Either real, right? Physically, it had time traveled to now, or was it a projection of something from the past, some kind of video capture hologram event? I don't know.
I,
What I do know is this: no matter how I look at this and how I try to resolve it in my mind, nothing changes my memory. I saw what I saw. It was real. I heard it. I remember there was one thing about this that was pretty vivid. I remember having a thought when I first saw it over my head that I could see somebody in one of the windows, and I was very excited about that, but it was only for an instant. But that is also part of the memory that I saw this figure in white. It wasn't again, it wasn't very high. If I was to guess, because it was, it was like this big, so 1,000 feet maybe, you know.
Jimmy, let me ask you this because I love that angle, the way that you've looked at this, the way you pulled it apart. You've said maybe there's a glitch in time space where you could be having this brush up against the fabric of time. But you're no stranger to UFO encounters. You've seen your share of UFOs. So when we go back into what Pliny the Elder said when he was talking about the Romans, they were seeing these cigar-shaped crafts and
Right.
shields. They said the Romans saw flying shields. Our First Nations people in Canada said they saw these cigar-shaped flying canoes. Is there a possibility that you saw some sort of a UFO? Could this be a UFO?
No, no, I take that right out. In fact, I don't even classify this as a UFO story.
Wow.
Because I could tell unidentified flying object stories all day long. I've seen hundreds of them. This is something singular that sits out there all by itself. What I saw was a Zeppelin flying through the sky with motors, props, noise, its beauty, its size. It was unbelievable. It was majestic, and it was there, and it was exciting. And the point that I constantly make for myself when it comes to aircraft and the space program and things like that is that I was an artist. I was an artist at a very young age. That's how I made my money after I graduated high school. I was an artist for Bell Laboratories, and I was a graphic designer in Indianapolis and here in LA. And I was an artist. I was an artist. Here, I'll show you something. I just got a copy of this. I just got a copy of this. This has been missing for a long time. A friend of mine just gave this to me. This happens to be what we're talking about right now. This is a poster. I'm going to unroll it. This is a poster that I did for the city of Pasadena.
Beautiful, man.
I did this in 1984.
You're kidding. That was your work? You did that?
Yeah. If you look right here, there's my signature. All right there, by Jimmy Church. You can see it right there. I drew myself with a guitar standing on the side of the street where I'm at, right here. There's me standing in front of my studio. right here. That's me with my guitar and my partner Gary at Winder Studio, right
That's
there.
incredible, man. I love
So,
it.
but I was an artist. Okay, I was an artist, so I knew how to draw things, and I would draw airplanes. I would draw spaceships, and I knew my helicopters and Air Force jets and commercial jets, and I knew my Zeppelins. Man, I love to draw them. I love to draw astronauts. I love to draw the lunar lander. I drew submarines. I drew cars. I was an artist, you know, and I wanted to capture. As I was looking at this, I know I'm 8 years old, but when I was 8, I was a drawing maniac, and I wanted to capture this. It was an opportunity. Not only did I want to capture the moment in my own mind's eye, I knew exactly what I was looking at. I was looking at a Zeppelin in the sky. At that age of 8, it was a Zeppelin in the sky. What I didn't know, if I had known then that there were no Zeppelins on planet Earth, now we've got a story here, right? I would have told this story for the rest of my life. It was just something that I saw in the sky.
That is incredible.
When you go through life and you're at football games or TV or watching a parade, and you see the Goodyear blimp in the sky, or you see the Goodyear blimp in a TV commercial, or you see the Goodyear blimp on TV during the Super Bowl, how many times has that happened for you? Countless. You don't repeat those events. It's just the Goodyear blimp. It's everywhere, whatever. It's no big deal. And so if that's why I never repeated the story, because it was just something that was, it's just,
that says a lot, because we know if it was just a hallucination. Hallucinations are very fleeting. And the fact that you can still remember that today in vivid detail, what the man was wearing, that he was there briefly in the window wearing white back in 1972, you were 8 years old, and the memory is still with you. You know, Jimmy, I love how you put this, because I've talked to people like Jordan Maxwell tells me one time he was up in Liechtenstein in Switzerland on the balcony, and he swears to God to me, when he sits across the table to me, he sits there and he swears to me that he once saw a pterodactyl. And it's impossible. It's utterly impossible that he could have seen this, but he swears he saw it. I've talked to people who stepped into a room, and I'm not talking about psychics or remote viewers. I'm talking about regular folks where they've stepped into a room and they saw people from another time period who were dancing.
Sure.
Were there. Yeah. So I think it's absolutely incredible that here you are. It sounds like you stepped into some kind of time warp temporarily.
Yeah, I don't know what the possibilities are here, because it could be so many different things. The facts are, my school was there, Clearview Elementary. This is 1972. The scene, my neighborhood didn't change. The kids in the park didn't change. None of that. There wasn't any physical changes in my environment. Something caught my eye above, and I could still hear the friggin'.
Wow.
It was that low, and it's perplexing to me. I remember. This is many years ago. I'll keep this brief. Many years ago on the show, I get a phone call. We take phone calls, open lines, and I get a phone call from this lady that tells a story that was very similar in this regard. They were traveling on vacation, got the family, and in a station wagon kind of thing, and they pull in. This is like in Texas, I believe, out in the desert, New Mexico, maybe even Arizona, but anyway, Southwest. And they pull into a rest stop to have lunch, and so the family is unpacking, doing their picnic thing, whatever, and picnic tables. She walks away, because there's a river right there. That's part of this scenic rest stop area, is this river. And so she walks over to the edge of the river, and she sees a plaque, and she's reading the plaque, and the plaque says, "At this spot is where wagon trains came across the United States in the 1800s on their way to California." And she's reading the plaque, and she looks across the river, and she sees a whole encampment with covered wagons and horses, and a couple of campfires with smoke and people and kids running around and families. And she's looking, and she thinks to herself, "Man, these actors are amazing. This looks real. I've got to go grab my family and show this to them. This is awesome." She runs back to the picnic tables. You got to see this reenactment going on across the river. Grabs the family, goes back, gone. She looks across the river, and there's nothing there. And she's telling her family, no, there was covered wagons, there was horses, there was a campfire, there was smoke, there were kids and women and men, and it was right there. And they're like, okay, all right. And she said, I didn't know what to do. I don't know what I saw. My family came back. They were gone. I know what I saw. Now, that is very similar to my experience in that her environment didn't change. It was still in this time period. Her family was still there. What she witnessed was from the past. And I think people have these experiences all the time. They may forget them, right? Because it's just a fleeting moment. Like my Zeppelin experience, it was virtually forgotten for almost 50 years. That was 1972. And for some reason, it popped in my head, and the memory came back, and I chose to go and try to find out what craft I saw that day flying over Chicago. If I hadn't have done that, I would have never remembered it. In fact, it's not even a story. It's nothing. The only reason why it's something is that in 1972, from 1939 to this day, there are no Zeppelins. They don't exist. So there you go. It's for me, it's one of those incredible moments that now has turned into this great unknown for me, and I don't know if it's ever going to get resolved. Me telling the story, sounding crazy, sounding made up, sounding sensational and fantastical and science fictional, all of these things, I don't care. It doesn't change the memory. It doesn't change what happened. It doesn't change how I found out about it. All of that are the facts of the case.
I think it's absolutely amazing, my friend. And I know that many people watching on the other side of the screen can relate. They may have had an experience where they feel like they stepped back in time a little bit. And I would love to hear from all of you at home that are watching this. Have you ever had an experience where you have all of a sudden found yourself immersed into another place and time? Jimmy, what an incredible story. Thank you so much for sharing. You're an artist, you're a musician, you're a producer, you're a filmmaker, you're a radio host of incredible shows like Fade to Black and Coast to Coast. Can you tell everybody at home watching how they can find you?
They can find me on miniguitar.com. You can go and jimmychurchradio.com, simple. You can follow me on Twitter at jchurchradio. I'm out there doing this every single day. I'm here deep underground in the bunker right now, preparing for another show tonight. Tonight is Open Lines. One of the things that I want to thank you for mentioning, not only the shows on the television and things, but it's the audience. And when you go back and peel into your memory, just go back, there are instances in your past that you have forgotten about that were probably pretty kooky, pretty strange at the moment, but life goes on. It just gets put on the back shelf, and you're dealing with school the next day, or your job, or your children and your dogs, your family, whatever, paying bills. Those little things like my Zeppelin story. I almost said Led Zeppelin. Like my Zeppelin story, that you can go back and recall and go, wait a minute, that was pretty strange. I wonder what that was. So for everybody, just take the time once in a while just to go back and try to remember things that at the moment weren't that big of a deal. But now that you know things and your knowledge has expanded, it was probably something pretty strange and fun to recall. Thank you so much, Johnny. You're the best, man.